Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm glad you're here. Today I'm going to show you how to do 2 cards using the May stamp of the month called Little Stinkers along with Dreammaker papers. Okay, so this is the stamp set. It has a bunch of these cute little skunks and other forest images, and then also sayings that go with them. And these are the Dreammaker cardstock papers. It has a marbleized look to the papers. And then I'm also going to use black and white and the balloon thin cut. I thought I was going to use the thin cut for floating by, but I decided just to use one of the stamps and a sentiment stamp. And then I'm going to use the background plate from Storybook. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to cut down my white daisy cardstock just a little bit to about 3 1/4 by 4, but then I'll trim it a little bit further. And I'm going to start first by cutting out my balloon. So I'm going to use this Periwinkle Dreammaker paper, and I'm going to cut my balloon. So we'll run that through, kind of placing it so that the design looks like the reflections on a balloon. And then I'm going to cut this little bow from the balloon string in black. So I'll run that through. Okay, so now I can kind of place the balloon where I think I want to have it on my design, and then then I know where to stamp. Okay, so I'm going to make it so that this skunk looks like he's holding the balloon string. Okay, so I'm stamping him in black archival ink. You could also use the intense black. I want something that's nice and deep and dark black for that skunk striping. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment. It says, "Wishing you a happy day." And then I'm going to stamp some of these little flowers around the skunk. I have a little trouble deciding which way to place them. So I'm kind of spinning it around, looking at it, inking it up again, making sure, and finally settled on that. And then I'm going to put some flowers on the other side. Okay. So we'll flip the Versamat back over, and I'm going to color in the flowers using some tri-blend markers. So I started out with purple, but I didn't like the match to the periwinkle, so I decided to go with pink, and we'll skip ahead. Okay, so now I'm going to trim down this panel so it's just a smidge smaller, and so that everything's balanced, because I had a little bit more on the right side. We'll trim that down, and then I'm going to matte it in black. So it's just 1/8 of an inch larger. I have a tiny border of black. And then I'm going to bring in some of this Glacier marbleized Dreammaker paper. And I'm going to cut a wider border so you can see a little bit more of it. So I'll trim that down to 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. I'll have a nice wide border so we can see that marbleized paper. All right. And then I'm going to cut my background. So I'm cutting this cover plate from Storybook in White Daisy. I'll run that through. And then I'll get a card base. And then I decided to cut a piece of black and matte that storybook paper on top. So I'm going to cut that at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 so that I can leave a tiny border of white from the card base. And then I'll have a tiny border of black, and then we'll have that cover plate white daisy piece all stacked. And then you can see the little dots through that white daisy embossed and cut piece. Okay, so that's the basic design of my card. So we'll go ahead and start layering things up using Tombow tape runner. And then I'm using wet glue to add that cover plate die cut piece so that I don't have any sticky tape runner popping through the holes. I was able to strategically place glue where I needed it. And then we'll pop that balloon with some foam tape. So we're going to work on our design piece first before we start layering that one up. So I'm placing the balloon, and then I'll place that little bow that I die cut in black cardstock. And then I'm going to doodle a string to have the skunk holding the balloon. So first I'm going to go ahead and draw it with pencil, and then I'll draw over it with my journaling pen, just to be sure I like it first. Okay. All right, and then we can layer those up. So I'm going to add that piece with some tape runner to the black, and then I'll layer the black onto the Dreammaker paper, and then I'll pop that whole panel with some more foam tape. So I'll have everything stacked up. So I'm just kind of centering it on this panel here. And there it is. Okay, and then for the last step, I'm going to add some diamond stickles to the tail and then also to that tuft of hair on the skunk's head. And I find the easiest way to get it placed where I want it to be is to squeeze a little bit out and then move the glitter glue around with a tiny paintbrush. And that way it's gonna go right where I want it. With larger pieces, you can use just the tip of the Stickles bottle. But to get in these tiny nooks and crannies, it helps to have a little paintbrush. Okay. All right, there's my finished card. He's so cute. Here's some close-up shots. Okay, so now let's make another card. This time I'm going to use the Lagoon and Ballerina. So I've cut down all my paper and die cut everything ahead of time. So let's go ahead and do some stamping. This time I'm going to use the skunk image that has a crown of flowers and the little mushrooms. Okay, so again, we'll use some archival ink and stamp the skunk. get that down, and then I'm going to use the same sentiment. So it's wishing you a happy day. So I'm kind of laying the balloon so I know where I can stamp or I'll have room. Stamp that. And then I'm going to bring in some candy apple ink and stamp those mushrooms. So we'll stamp those out. And mushrooms like this really do exist in real life. I saw some while I was hiking up in the Mount Evans wilderness, and then also some other ones up in Rocky Mountain National Park, and they really do look like that. Okay, so now we can color the flowers in and the base of the mushrooms. So I'm just using a tri-blend marker, and I'm going to leave this part in because the outline of that stem of the mushroom, of course, it's red from stamping it with candy apple. So I'm going to trace over that line with my black journaling pen. A little bit easier way than masking and stamping in two colors because it's kind of a tiny area. So, and then I'll just leave the coloring in here because it's super quick and I've just sped everything up. And we'll just color the flowers pink and color the leaves, and we're good to go. Okay. So I'm going to layer everything up the same way I did the last card. So we'll kind of skip ahead. And I've popped that balloon. We'll add that little black bow. And then I'm going to doodle a balloon string. So again, I'm going to trace it out in pencil first, and then I'll go over it with my journaling pen. And this time I didn't go exactly over the pencil, so if you have one of these Tombow sand erasers, they're helpful in removing that pencil mark. Comes off nice and easy. Okay, so then we can go ahead and layer everything up like we did the other one. So Tombow, and then we'll pop that whole panel with foam tape. And then I'm going to add some stickles to the tail of the skunk. Gotta have a little bit of bling, right? A little sparkle. So again, I'm just running a line of the stickles, and then I'll place it precisely with a little paintbrush. So cute. So you can get this stamp set for $5 with any $50 purchase during the month of May. And if you're a VIP, you can get it for free with a $50 purchase. There's both cards. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And then you'd be able to find all of my videos. I'm getting so close to 400 now. Quite a few in the library. And thanks for watching.